Hi, and welcome back to Yeti at Large. This is our final episode on the Quiet Quitting series. We're out here in the woodshed. Has a metaphorical meaning. If you don't understand what it means to be taken to the woodshed, ask your grandparents. It's a place where discipline used to take place way back in the day. This discipline, though, that we have is self-discipline today. It's by far and away the most important level of discipline there is. Peer discipline. This one is equally important and takes mountains of courage. Do you have the courage to go to your peers and ask for an honest evaluation of your performance? Do you have the courage to approach a peer, to have an honest conversation with them, a critical conversation that may be conflict, but if you come at it from the correct angle, could be highly constructive? Supervisor discipline. This is the one everybody thinks of, the write-up, the suspension, the talking to. If we get to that point, then some things have failed along the way. If you're typically known as a very conscientious worker, you've done a good job, you try to do the right thing, and you get to that level of supervisor discipline, then you have missed some critical warnings along the way. For some people, exhaustion, fatigue, stress, anxiety, and all those other things that come along with working very hard at a job can lead to a breakdown in self-discipline and then also in peer discipline, because if your peers are in the same situation as you are, they're not looking beyond themselves. And then the worst form is for public discipline. Being in public safety for the last 12 years, we've seen what the public scrutiny has looked like. A lot of outcry. And I say that every one of those people that have had a concern could trace that concern, whether you think it's legitimate or not, that's for you to decide, but they could trace that concern back to a breakdown in those levels of discipline. Thank you, Agnes. You're a good girl. Yes. So sitting here today in the woodshed, that's where we want to take a look at that self-discipline, and the quiet quitting movement is all about that. Now, there is a much, much larger movement globally taking place right now. Tune into some of the Asian news, especially in China. You'll see that there is a movement that is called Bailan. Forgive me, I know I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But it roughly translates into lie flat. Do nothing. Do the bare minimum. And there's a next level of that called let it rot. There's a whole generation that's reported that has lost motivation, lost interest, and they don't want to run on the gerbil wheel anymore. They don't want to buy into the hustle culture that requires them to give much, much more than what the published expectation is if there's any hope of advancement. And for many, there is no hope of advancement in their current situation. Believe me, I understand that. The crowded nature of the workforce and the limit of those desirable jobs available can lead someone to have that perception. Now, these giant movements, I think, have merit. I think they're going to change the world. And large corporations, large employers, and traditional employment models have no one to blame but themselves for creating this culture where people don't see the reward. They're not motivated by what's offered. The wages in many jobs are not livable, and what makes people so angry about it is when they see the parent company posting all-time record earnings, but their frontline staff are not even making a bare minimum livable wage. Now, minimum wage, opinion piece here, shouldn't exist. The market will figure all that out. But to have a minimum wage denotes that they have studied the market to the point where they feel that enough people will engage. If people stop engaging, those wages are going to come up and the model will have to change. And corporate America and traditional employment models have no one to blame but themselves. The problem is participating in a movement like this. There is a very high likelihood, almost to a certainty, that you as an individual will get chewed up and suffer participating in that. I was speaking with my biological father on this topic previously, and I told him all about it, and he said, "Oh, we used to just call them slackers." And I thought it was very funny, because if you're in a job environment, everybody knows who's just doing the bare minimum. And if you give the bare minimum, you can expect the bare minimum in return. But if you're fortunate enough to have really looked at yourself and to find something that you're highly motivated by, something you want to grow into, something that really you want to see yourself doing, then that quiet promoting, you need to be busy about that. And if that's something completely different and outside of your current employment situation, then you get home from work and you get busy about growing. Look at all the people that are doing university at home. I would tell you, if you go and look online, the amount of free training and knowledge that is out there, if you're willing to study, is almost limitless. I have a profound passion for aviation, but I've never had time or the space in my obligations to get my pilot's license and to move forward with that. Now that I'm in the job market again, I'm looking very intently at a career in aviation. Being in my mid-50s, having the time and the concentration to earn a position as a commercial pilot may not be my first choice, but to be in an aviation-centric industry, that's where I'm heading. And I have picked up a mountain of education in aviation, just by going online and finding free trainings and YouTube. For example, Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University has an Aviation 101 course. It's a series of 12 or so classes, and it teaches you everything from nomenclature of an airplane to runway markings to air traffic control etiquette to pre-flight to safety and on and on. Now, maybe I'm not going to be a commercial pilot moving forward, but it behooves me to be able to understand all of the obscure metaphorical lingo and jargon. So back to quiet quitting. If you find yourself in a position where there's very low prospect in your current employment situation, but yet you place a high value on this job because you're living where you're waiting on that paycheck coming in, and you're vulnerable economically and financially, you're vulnerable, then quiet quitting is not for you. I wouldn't say that you go reaches above and beyond in the workplace, but please make sure that you understand what your job description is and you fulfill it best. The bitterness that comes from working in a job with that's mundane, that's boring, that's routine, that can be pervasive, and you need to be careful. I remember somebody one time gave me a saying where they spelled out what that feels like, and they basically stated that we, the unwilling, led by the unqualified, doing the unnecessary for the ungrateful. For so long we've done so much with so little, we now find it possible to do anything for anybody, anywhere, at any time, with nothing at all. Funny, but rather I would tell you that proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Get to work. Get busy about something that interests you. You have more time. Benjamin Franklin once said, "What hurts instructs," and poverty is the enemy of liberty. Now, I'm not talking about real poverty, but I'm talking about being in a position where you're pinned, where you got enough to pay the bills. I would suggest that there are avenues and remedies available to you. But again, there is no substitute. You are going to have to work harder. And go back to that power of 3 months to build a new habit. So quiet quitting, it's fad language. Ignore it. Don't be a slacker. Get busy. Understand the transactional nature of your employment relationship. Fulfill that transaction. And if you're in a position where you're not interested in the hustle culture and you think it's unfair, but you're meeting your obligation, fine. I think that's perfectly acceptable. Go home and get busy about something that's going to help you build the life you want to live. Not my job. I wrote this down because I used to hear this in the 80s in the kitchens. It's not my job. Now, to a point, there is some accuracy there. If I'm the pastry chef, it is not my job to go over and make the sauce soumise. I'm not the saucier. That is not my job. But in a larger sense, part of a team, it is. It's all of our jobs to be busy about fulfilling our responsibilities. One thing I love about football, it is the most complicated team sport where simultaneously everybody has a very specific and unique job they must do for any of it to work. One person stops performing their job or does not perform their job best, the whole thing breaks down, and you have a last place team. Fill in the blank right there. Learn and grow. Build. Be a builder. Be a builder. Make more. Have that mentality of plenty. There's always another slice of pie. Grow. Build. Be that person. Underemployed. Running on the gerbil wheel. That's a tough one. We've all been there, or we've been stagnant. 3 years. That's how long it's going to take to really grow out of that. Keep that in mind. If you don't have a goal, you don't have a direction. Pick a goal. Pick something. It doesn't have to be the biggest leap in history. You don't have to be Bessie Coleman. Look her up. But you can be the next person to make that next step up. One of the last pieces of note that I have on this, and I will republish this note because I've made some changes, some additions, and some revisions. So at the end of this segment, I will leave these notes here for you to refer to if that's, again, what you want to look at. But they don't care what you're capable of. That's what I wrote. And this is that 3-year bitterness that comes where you know you can do so much more. You know you see the solutions. The obvious is the nose on your face solutions, but yet they're ignored and you are not requested to be engaged in that process. We talked about a lot of times there's reasons why that you're unaware of. Patience. Patience. When your time comes though and you're asked, patience. Still slow down. But if they don't care what you're capable of and you feel like you're being underutilized, there could be a lot for you to unpack that goes right back to self-discipline. But that's when you need to get busy about building yourself an angle where you can move forward. Now, I want to speak directly to people that are in a unique category, a class, if you will, close to retirement. There's a fear, unlike anything else in the workplace, that when you're so close to having that retirement, that nest egg, your stake, the fear that comes with work, it can be overwhelming. That's where that patience and to understand the transactional nature. Now that's not quiet quitting, but that is having a clear understanding of the transactional nature of your work relationship. Have the courage to stand up for yourself. Live within your means. Be busy right now about shedding debt anywhere that you can. Don't look at your bills on a monthly level. Look at them at what they cost you a year. So that $36 a month set of subscriptions to get you to a chat room and a gaming room, and that's over $400 a year. What would you do if I handed you $400 right now? Getting out of debt, reducing your liabilities, will ease your stress at work, and it will help you buy more time and motivate you to start quiet promoting. Thank you so much for joining us on this. Please, if you've been watching this, leave a comment. There they are. If you hit pause, you can get a screenshot of this and take a look at them. I never claimed to be the most academic or organized person. I highly recommend a book by Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way. It's rooted in Stoicism. It helped me a lot. It might help you.